And we're live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Iron Hack. Welcome to another webinar. I'm sorry for the small delay. I'm glad that you are all here. Let me know if at any point you can hear as well, or if you hear anything else that you shouldn't. And if everything is okay, please let us know in the chat if you can hear me. Today we'll have Laura, but before we go into her presentation, I'd like to know where you're from. Well, actually, some of you already told us where you're from Lisbon. I'm talking from Lisbon as well. I think Laura as well from Lisbon, at least from Portugal, I think.
Not from Lisbon, but from
Not
Portugal, yes.
From Portugal. All right. We have people from Paris, Cambridge, and Miami. Perfect. Different time zone. Perfect. So if you can hear me well, please say something in the chat. Perfect. Thank you, Francis. And before we go on to the presentation, for those of you who are new here, we are Ironhack, and we are a global tech school. We have bootcamps around the world. Around web development, UX, UI design, of course, data analytics and cybersecurity. And we're doing these events pretty much very often. I will leave here a button for you to follow up on upcoming events that we will have. Well, if you want to know more about Iron Hack, you can ask around. You can ask here in the chat, and I will make sure to answer you right now. So in the beginning, after this introduction, Lara will give the talk, and after in the end of her talking and of her session, we will make a small space for you to ask in a few questions. And this leads me to Crowdcast rules, so you know how this works. So I see that you discover here the chats, and I'm glad to know you can hear me fine. People from Berlin, Netherlands, it's perfect. This is where you can leave your comments, your feedbacks, and interact with each other. But if you want to make questions, and we advise you to, we will make a small space in the end for us to answer your questions live. So if you want to make questions, you have a ask a question section below the videos. This is where you can leave your questions, and you can vote other people's questions. So if you really want to see them answered, leave your questions there. Otherwise, they get lost in the chat. Other than that, just so you know, this webinar is recorded. So you will be able to access the recording through this very link. And I think that's it for now. So I will just pass the word to Laura, and she will give you an amazing talk, I'm sure.
Thank you, Raquel. Thank you, Iron Hack, for inviting me to this talk. It's been a while, but I've been collaborating with you guys for some years, and I'm grateful for you facilitating this kind of sessions, because I think they are of immense importance, especially in the time we are living in. And yeah, today I'm going to guide you through my personal research, my personal story of human-centered approach, I would say, to design, but to everything in my life, and especially to something that I call today life-centered research, because I truly believe that future of UX and future of design and research is beyond the humans. And yeah, I'm going to share my screen, and this is also the title of today's talk. It's about human-centered research and beyond humans. And I'm already starting to share and present me shortly, because I think it's also important that you know who I am and where these mindsets come from. So I'm an anthropologist. From 2007 on, I work as a researcher, as an anthropologist at the beginnings, but in 2008 I started to collaborate with designers and architects and different kind of interdisciplinary teams, collaborating with private and public sector. And in that time I started to understand that future is all about collaboration, and that what I'm really called to, it's also transdisciplinary approach, and something that today I call design anthropology approach. And I've been since then working as a UX researcher, but I really personally prefer to use design anthropologists, because it's something that it has quite some different roots on how I approach to the research of people, of informants, and my personal collaboration with whatever I do. Nevertheless, very important thing, I believe, what is going to also guide this talk. I'm a founder of Give a Shit Project. The Give a Shit Project is action platform focusing on urban water management and sanitation, but it's really about giving a shit about real problems we have in today's society, and it's really taking them for granted to collaborate and to work towards a paradigm shift. And I'm also a co-founder of Authentic Sovereign Beings platform that I'm not going to reveal so much today, but it's something that if you're going to be interested in my work and in what we are going to do with this platform, I'm sure you're going to be engaged into it sooner or later. Also to say that all what I'm going to showcase, it really comes from my personal experience, is of course through a lot of reading, through a lot of collaborative methods that I experience, but something that I learn, and I believe it can be beneficial to your work as researchers. But no matter what is your field of expertise, it's something it's for sure needed in approach we are having towards future society or towards new world creation. So I'm going to address different kind of things. And this is just like resume. We're going to walk through the systems thinking, because I think system thinking goes far beyond design thinking, but of course incorporates design thinking. Absolutely important to address the moment we are living in that completely turned upside down our lives, but I believe also with great opportunities for great outcomes. For new paradigm shift, we're going to speak about UX, human-centered approach. Who are the humans? Who are we? And beyond humans and beings, and life-centered and holo-centered design, but approach to life, as I already mentioned. I just want to check if you hear me, because unfortunately, I must say this is a UX talk also, but from UX perspective, this platform doesn't have the best interface or UX, because I cannot see you, or I cannot even see if anyone is engaging. So I would love to hear if you can hear me, just to know, because if I stop sharing my screen, is it all good? You hear me? Raquel? Yes.
Yeah, people are saying they can hear you fine, so you're good.
Okay, thank you. So that's amazing. Okay, so I have a lot to say, but if I'm too long, if there is anything unclear, I also welcome any interventions through the talk, okay? But at the end, we have questions and answers sections. So I'm going to start with one concept I personally really like. It's a Johari window. It's quite known from Rumsfeld talk, where we're speaking of known knowns towards unknowns. Why I'm saying this? Because I want to address this human-centered approach really from my personal perspective, because after all, I am an individual who is delivering professional results, and who is a professional and delivering results towards who I am. So this Johari window, it's actually it's a tool which is analyzing our awareness of oneself. If you're going to be interested in it, you can then look into what the concept means. But just to say that we are going to speak a lot about things that we know, about known knowns. We are going to speak about unknown knowns, and something that is unknown unknowns, things that we don't know that they even exist, but they are going to be very relevant and important also for the design research. So I must start with the systems thinking and human-centered approach, or human-centered design. As you see, I was underlining human. And why? Because I really believe that this systemic vision of situation that we are living today, it's addressing different kind of environments, beings, different kind of biodiverse ecosystem we live in, and it's really going far beyond than only human-centered focus research and results. Why I'm saying this? Because I did collaborate in several projects with companies from tourism, urbanism, intervention in public spaces, well-being for society, and what I understood, health system, what I understood that focusing on humans, of course, and users, as we say in UX research, it brings great results because interfaces are improved, platforms are improved, but where the problem stands is that we sometimes create bigger problems with not considering the all living beings, and I have in mind here environmental damage created through it and all the rest that it follows, with not considering the well-being of everyone who is part of the system, living ecosystem. So this is just a vision how I approach to things. I don't want to bother you too much with these concepts. We are going to go through a lot more tangible things, but very important thing is that when we focus on UX research, on human-centered research, we are having our informants, people, users in the center of our research, co-creating, observing, interviewing with them. But what is very important to understand that these people belong to different kind of contextual environments. These people are embedded and using different kind of business, industrially produced models, technology. Policy is also determining a lot how people are behaving in environments, how people are using different kind of environments. I'm speaking especially, for example, I worked a lot with the urban water management. If policy is not supporting the transition model towards the reuse of water, rainwater systems, and so on, it's very hard to address that kind of transitioning together with people. And we need to understand that that's also one condition we need to know about it, and so on. So from that systemic vision, where I say this seems like huge, and you're going to say, but what this matters for me as a UX researcher if I want to just understand how to improve the interface where people are using my app? It's very important because sometimes we are not aware that the contextual environment, invisible environment, determines how people behave. And that's essential, and I'm going to show you this on several examples. This is taken from very simple 5 phases of design thinking process that I believe that most of you are known with, where we empathize, define, ideate ideas, prototype, and test our ideas. But what I want to showcase in the entrance of this talk, that this is all interconnected, and all phases of the research and human-centered approach are essential to be embedded in every step of our work. It means from the beginning on, where we are dealing with the truth that we are not known from before, where we are observing the realities, where we are ideating and creating our ideas, where we are prototyping our ideas, it's essential we bring this together with our users, with people who are beneficiaries of what we are creating, and not as it was normally addressed, that at the beginning it's very important to get ideas from what people need, do the questionnaires and interviews, and then just define and ideate inside of our laboratories, inside of our design studios. No, what is essential that we ideate, prototype, and especially test again and again things with our users. So I'm going to pass from this to, first of all, speaking of the moment we are living in, because I do believe, I'm sure that we are all experiencing how this particular situation is affecting our individual lives, in personal, daily lifestyles, to our professional experiencing. So here we're speaking of something known. So I'm going back to you, Hari window. We're speaking of the moment that we are living, that as we're all aware of, COVID pandemic did affect us in different ways. But what I want to address, that this emerging transition, the moment of situation we are living in, it's amazing from the perspective of the research and observation of what is happening in society and how humans are reacting what is happening in nowadays societies. So this emerging situation is the one that is actually bringing opportunity for UX to improve and really focus on societal needs. Why? Because, for example, previously we would do observations together with people, we would be in environments doing ethnography, doing presential interviews, also, of course, doing UX through applications and eye tracking and so on. But what is essential is understanding that this kind of toolkits for research are changing due to this emerging transition that is occurring when the societal model is changing. Excuse me. So I already said COVID, but what is happening with this pandemic and what is happening with this effect in society is of absolute consideration for each and every researcher. Why? Because when we are speaking of physical distancing and when we are speaking of economic fallout, when we are understanding that we are losing jobs and that there are opportunities that previously they were so open and secured are changing or failing, we're also understanding that there is something that needs to change. And what it needs to change is, first of all, our approach and understanding that this frustration can also become an opportunity for a change. So what kind of change? This COVID-19 situation is absolutely accelerating pre-existing paradigm, trends, political, economic, and social behavior towards something new. And something new, it's affecting absolutely how we behave, who we are, how we feel, and who we are becoming. And now I'm getting more really into the research section, where I'm going to showcase how this affected just in 1 year completely our existence on this planet Earth. From automation of commerce, when everything is becoming more and more digital, where everything is becoming not just online because it's valid in this moment, but because it's also convenient and because it's also bringing new understanding of future model we are going to live in. From remote entertainment and social gatherings online, birthday parties online, home workouts, which are going also remotely, life moved from public to private spaces. Even if you are forced to do so, it is very important for the research to understand that this private space, home, is today the space that most of you as future or existing UX researcher, human-centered, using human-centered approach are going to need to consider. What does this mean? We act completely differently in private spaces than in public spaces. So this is also something to consider in every kind of interface we observe. And I'm going to showcase you later on how we observe this. From online education, people are changing a lot behaviors, how I was seeing and reading some very interesting things on, for example, spring cleaning. People are having more time to dedicate to their homes, to see old memories, connect to different kind of diets, actually reconnect deeper with their needs, because all of us, we are spending so much time in our homes, a lot of times on our own, that these kind of practices are becoming more and more normalized and not just becoming something distant and luxurious as previously. Do-it-yourself practices are increasing. People are starting to more and more create their things and not so much search for the services. For example, hairdressers, new repair systems. Reading has increased ever from pandemic beginning, increase in art and creative layouts. And of course, there is also an increased frustration on how to divide personal, professional life space. But I'm not going to go to the, let's say, into so dark side of this, because I see a lot of things also changing in a positive side. And I think it's of no benefit to bring to this webinar the depression state, because if we are here, I truly believe, we do believe things are possible to change, and they're always able to change towards very positive outcomes. So what is happening, just observing through distance, and how I approach from COVID on, when I was still at the beginning of pandemic, working with different companies, researching, doing online ethnography and online UX. Obvious consumer tendencies are very easy to perceive. So even if we are researching and doing UX from our homes, we can go, first of all, of course, questionnaires, interviews, online Zoom meetings, etc. But just getting into, for example, I like this Glimpse website, where is forecasting constantly what is happening with consumer tendencies. And there are some of them very obvious, like people are starting to buy more vitamins, minerals, of course, because of immune system, especially prepare food was also, it's noticed a huge increase. Some of the things that they are they started to be very surprising are things that they are focusing on not just well-being, but particularly on do-it-yourself practices, where people started to buy yeast, for example. This is a result from April in last year, increased for 1,100% orders of yeast online. And bread makers. What's kind of incredible to understand how people are starting to reinvent their behavior and their well-being. What this means that these new consumer tendencies are not, I'm just showing some very short, briefly insight, but through observation, what we can understand, even if this is on my personal assumption, that this, I'm quite sure of some of them, especially because I'm specialized in toilets, that these new consumer tendencies, like buying bidets and not just overcharging your home with toilet paper, like toilet hoarding at the beginning, as you know, of pandemic, people went kind of crazy with over-consuming and overbuying toilet paper. And for me, from a behavioral perspective, that was a very interesting insight, understanding what is the primary need of this society. And when I say that these kind of tendencies are changing our future, is understanding that buying a bidet is going to change how the products are being made and how the spaces like bathroom space is being perceived and so on. But these are just some insights from the existing moment. And of course, these kind of insights are going to define also how later on these people are acting in other kind of performance and other kind of experiences of their life. As you see, immense increase in do-it-yourself hairstyles, nail things, art performance, and so on and so on. When we looked into things, we were seeing some known things because we can observe them and they are known realities. We can go to the Google, we ask, even if the data is not always the most relevant, we find the data. Because of this, I call it known knowns. But what are the what are the known unknowns? If we go to the UX and human-centered approach, what is important and what was always essential? Essential, and how the company started to operate, is that numbers previously gained from questionnaires, from quantity research, were starting to need more and more real life stories, because sooner, especially around in 80s and 90s, start to be understood that, of course, the marketing strategy cannot only operate through numbers, but needs additional real life stories. And then that's also translated to creation of products, to creation of technologies, and so on. So to have impact, numbers absolutely need stories. And because of this, solutions should be created together with people to really satisfy their needs and to really bring outcomes and guarantee long-lasting results. And what is true, that all kind of reports are showcasing that user research, 86% of industry found that user research is truly improving quality of products and services. But what is true, that in this moment, since everything is changing and models are drifting, also research and how we research, it's changing, and it needs to change more and more. Because of what I'm showing you here, it's something we did until probably we are in a lot of cases still using it as such, but doing personas, using the same models of research. But I will assure you that behaviors are changing so much that we need to understand people not just as numbers, but really people in their contextual realities. So creating personas, of course, it's a good tool to generalize things, and especially to approach and explain situation to our clients. But what is essential, that in good human-centered research, you don't focus on personas as invented as imaginary friends, imaginary informants, users, but truly as people who live in contextual realities and who are really not just digital users and people who live with technology and people who are more and more connected to technology. Why? Because offline behavior, who I am in my daily life, in my home, how I act in interaction with others, it's also determining how I am using different kind of technologies. What does this mean? That in human-centered research, simple as that, became a buzzword in last 10, 20, especially 10 years, but in last 20 years. What's great in one point of view, because that means that humans, users, we as individuals are in the center of creation, also in understanding how companies are understanding products, service systems, and so on. But where is the gap there? It's that we are starting humanizing everything, all kind of technology, without even understanding who is the human and how to be with humans. Human-centered research, it's really, if we go to the root of the word, it's about earthly humans, is someone who is related to the space. So when we go to these eye tracking devices, text scanning patterns, they do bring some data to us, but they are not the ones who are really going to completely guarantee you the real picture of especially how these people feel, what is the belief system of these people, what is the value system of these people. None of these technology devices can read that. Because of this, is essential that we understand and create observation together with people, that we do ethnography, that we do field work, and that we are in presence with situation. Now probably you're thinking, but we cannot even go out of house in this moment. What shall I do? So this is just some of previous work in lab observation, different kind of methodologies that I did, and so on. But what is essential, that even today when you are far away, let's say, of your users, that you are not in the field, that you are not making presential interviews, it's very important that you find new ways of digital ethnography, of digital observation. What that means, that a part of doing, let's say, even if you do interviews through Zoom calls, whatever platforms you use, that you also ask different kind of feedbacks, that you learn to observe how people behave even on the phone calls, how people speak, there is a lot of things that we can read through sensory experiences we have. Because of this, we really need to tune in into how we listen, how we presence each other when we are researching. For digital ethnography, the ones who are interested, there is one excellent platform. It's called Indimo. I can then also type you later on in the chat. But there are different kind of tools and platforms where you can really connect with users on deeper level and not just have them as database of numbers. Okay, so that's very important. So to get again back to the Johari window, from known knowns to unknown knowns, we need to understand that to go to the unknown knowns, to go something that we know it exists, we know that these people behave in particular way, but we don't know how to approach it. We need to start to use soft skills. We need to empathize. We need to be present for people. And I'm going to say one more time, present, it doesn't mean that you need to be in this particular situation in today's society we are living, that you are present with them in physical spaces. But you should have ethic, how you approach to them. Communication can go in many different layers. I just, through this pandemic, I facilitate and collaborated with different clients who were also adapting digital ethnography. So communication online is essential. How do you create an interview? How do you create a questionnaire? If you're determined with questions, answers, probably it's going to not be a realistic answer. So make the open questions, make the space that people can contribute in their own way, create the confidence, because the trust space and safety space is essential for having the realistic answers and realistic observations. and to have really the outputs that they can guarantee some long-lasting results. It's not like, oh, we created an app and it's going to be functional now, but in 5 months doesn't matter what happens. No, you need to be reiterating needs, so you need to be collaborating with people and using constantly creativity in your work. When I say creativity, it's not only in ideation phase when you think, oh, this is the best product, I'm going to add a different kind of color setting to improve it, or so on. No, creativity should be also used in the way you ask questions. You can research with photographies, you can research with video, you can research asking people to do tasks for you, behave different kind of practices that you can analyze, and so on and so on. And to go further with human-centered research, we first of all need to address who are these humans. If we look into etymology of humans, and I already mentioned this previously, we're speaking of man who comes from originally from humus, earthling man. It's someone who is undividedly related to the land, who is undividedly related to the root, to the base, to the earth. And why I'm saying this, that we can go to many levels of perceiving this, be it physical reality, be it spiritual reality, being business reality. We need to understand that these humans, all of us, inhabit different kind of physical environments, and different kind of physical environments are determining how we are behaving also online and how we are behaving in interaction with each other. For this, is essential to study contextual reality of your informants. This means you're going to understand them better. It's essential to understand what kind of culture defines these people, what is the belief system of these individuals, what are their habits, what is their value system, norms, and only then you can really start to understand behaviors and authentic needs. So without going to contextual reality, it's very difficult that you just do. Of course, you can do it, and I personally already experienced very short research of 1 week, 5 days, when you don't have time for extensive research. But what is very important, it's positioning and vision, systemic, holistic vision of situation. And if you have an open mind, and as you see on this watershed background, everything is interconnected. And all these humans are interconnected with their with other humans, but also with their environment, with their families, with how they behave in homes. It's going to determine who are there in their job positions, and so on and so on. So it's essential to understand where do we use, for example, apps, especially in UX research. It's not only I'm doing UX research, even if you do it online, and you are asking people to use it for you to see what is the how interface is working, how people are interacting, how they are using it. You should ask them to use it in different kind of contextual environment, in their natural environment. Ask people to use the app driving the car, being on the road, or using it before, I don't know, in their homes. So the performance is always different, and that determines a lot how people are interacting, and especially that is essential for our future, how we are going to create together as a society results, and also bring benefits with what we are creating to our future. So how to understand and study humans? When we say human-centered approach, and then we right away switch to users or personas, that I would say it's already a mistake, because the language used is also essential how we approach to people. In anthropology that I come from, we use word informants, we don't use users. I'm not saying it's what is correct, what is wrong. I just want to encourage that being human-centered researching, understanding that humans have different kind of behaviors and humans have different kind of needs. So first of all, how do we research? Most of the time we observe conscious behavior. So when I look into the person, I'm talking to him, her, online, doing an interview in this moment, or doing a survey, what I'm going to receive is a rational answer. It's something that comes from my thinking. It comes from the conscious part, as you can see in the above section. What happened, that what is not obvious, it's what people think. It's what happens in people's subconscious. So what is this? Emotions, feelings, attitudes, our belief system, value system, instincts are not seen in first engagement or in the way if we just ask questions. It's essential that we are able to decode and understand through different kind of experiential methodology how people are feeling, what are their beliefs. Because if we focus only on rational answers, our answers are going to be very answers are probably going to be very bold. It's this, it's that, but what we are searching for as good UX researchers, it's stories and experiences of people in usage of platforms, in interaction with each other, depends what is the theme of your project you're working on. But whatever kind of improvement you are in this moment creating, whatever kind of incremental innovations, radical innovations you are creating in companies, clients, or your own business, it is essential you are able to see what you see in the screen, what is beyond words. Because it's easy to read words, but what is not easy is to read behaviors. Because of this, we say human-centered research is really about human behavior and in their contextual reality, connecting the rational thinking with emotional statements, attitudes, beliefs, and so on. And because of this, what happens, due to the Forbes research in 2018, 98% of innovation was failing, or I would rather use word was out of the market after 6 months. Why? After it was presented to the market. Why? Because problems are being oversimplified. Problems are being generalized. Problems of a briefing, you receive a briefing of a client, it's read literally. And what we need to know when we work with our clients, as a researcher, we are also educators. We also need to bring information and knowledge that clients can make right decision and bring upon right solutions. So this is known for ages, nothing new I'm bringing here, but what is true, we really need to act like this and not just think like this. Massification is out, personification is in. We really need to understand each and every individual need. What this means, you're going to say, but I don't have time to study all the population, all the markets size that I'm looking at. But what is essential that you have at least, I would say, 2 to 3 your valid sources, constant valid sources of informations. Why? Because quantity data, it's important, okay? And it's important to have numbers and understand how people are performing, how they're interacting, and so on. But what is really the real human-centered research showing and showcasing that small group of individuals through the ethnography approach is going to give you quality results. It's going to say how people feel, how people, what is the narrative upon using the devices or upon using technology or physical spaces in this moment, airports or different kind of, even the language of advertisement. It's essential to understand how positively or negatively people are affected by different kind of situations and problems. And for this, we need to do ethnography. In this moment, of course, as I said, I'm aware we are not together with our informants, but we still have possibility of digital ethnography and digital interaction and personalized use and agreements on how we engage with our users. I can explain this later on how it happens. And I'm going to now follow to the second part that it's related to UX in future, and what I see as future into the inside of this paradigm shift, where I see a huge opportunity where we are going to absolutely work with unknown unknowns. And what I have to say here, it's something that we are not aware that it's going to be that way. We couldn't, if I told you a year ago that the world is going to stop, of course no one would believe that. But in this moment, it's essential that we all understand that the new normal, it's not going to be the old normal. And there is no way back after this. This is like after First World War, Second World War, I need to name it as such. I'm not saying it's, let's say, physically so demanding, but for sure, paradigm is shifting and we are going to change. We are changing as society, and business is changing and requesting absolutely for new approach. And this approach is a life-centered approach where we as researchers are going to be more and more in sensing mode and understanding what's happening with also through our gut feeling and practicing this in research towards everything what's happening. So in this moment, remote work, it's something becoming normalized, completely normalized as educational model as well. Small and medium-sized shops are increasing. In Portugal, these are news from Portugal, from that ones who are from Portugal, where governments are starting to encourage people to produce locally, to buy locally. Why? Because in this pandemic, we start to understand the problem of globalization. And this is absolutely also bringing together more and more social solidarity, where people are really supporting and understanding that without each other, results are not doing so good. So I took some examples from social solidarity. This is from the neighborhood, where people are offering their help, where different kind of non-governmental institutions like Largo Residencias, companies like Xiaomi are entering and bringing this social solidarity into other level. So why I'm showing you this, that this kind of moment in society is completely shifting our behavior, be it most of time in media showcased as something collapsing, frustrating, problematic, increase in death numbers and so on. But what I want to say, and what is essential for each and every individual and researcher, that we are shifting into a new paradigm where we have opportunity to understand that we inhabit this world with other humans and in environments where we are using common resources with other beings, and this is essential. Why? For shift of political agendas, for shift of everything what's happening, because as a human-centered approach, sustainability became something very commercialized. It became a buzzword. But the truth is that this pandemic is also showing how results in society and how our behavior or non-action is bringing amazing positive reduction in greenhouse gas emission, air and noise quality increased, and nature is coming back to its natural rhythm. And once more, back to the UX and back to human-centered research, it's needed and absolutely important that you, even if you're working for a company, even if you're just starting this career, understand that business opportunities are changing. Even if you're searching for a job, understand that you are the one who are asked to create your own job opportunities, because there are plenty. Wherever there is a problem in society in the moment, and I'm not even going to list them, there is opportunity for shift, and there is opportunity for intervention and human-centered approach and UX insights to enhance and bring further positive solutions. So be it technology, guidelines for creation of policy models, circular economic model, product design, etc. Everywhere the shift is needed. And I'm just going through the 5 steps. I know we have some 10 minutes left. Going to just walk you through these steps of design thinking, but how I see it in systems thinking. First of all, be curious and use your gut feeling. I truly believe that empathize, it's when they say empathy is about being with people and understanding their needs, being in shoes of other people, that's all true. But to be with people, you need time and you need space. You need to create environment that people can trust you and share their real needs, especially in the vulnerable situation we are living in. Because of this observation, but then action upon this is essential in this moment. So we need to design for humans, ecosystem, but especially for planetary health. And this is showcased that in this moment, we cannot just create individuals' isolated solutions. Especially in this pandemic, we understand interconnectedness of everything, of economic system, of health system, of basic things like traveling, food chains, and so on. So it's essential that we understand human behavior to guarantee long-lasting solutions, which are going to create positive impact. Why? Because problems technically are easy to solve. Whatever company is going to hire, they know that they have technology to produce and to guarantee the outputs needed. The thing is, we need to understand where is the root of the problem, and the root of the problem it's in human, how we behave, how we interact, how we use things. So it's essential to do observations with people. After our research, imagine that you are doing, I was doing, one of the last research I was doing, it was digital ethnography on sustainability, on how people interact and why they don't buy so many sustainable products in one particular municipality. And what is true that once we go from this observed results, when we have these results from empathize phase, from research, we need to define and create first insights. What is the truth that in this insights phase, it's very important you verify your data. It's not only I have something, I talk to you, and I have brilliant ideas because you told me this and this and this. Every time you're creating results, you need to collaborate, and you need to, if needed, reiterate and go back and reaffirm if things are correct. Why? Because this co-creation phase, human-centered design, it's all about co-creation and collaboration. It needs to be done together with individuals, because this is an image I like to use, and it has to do a lot with what happens when we make wrong assumptions and when we define our insights in a wrong way. I don't know if any of you is laughing behind the screen meantime seeing this, but the truth is that stakeholders or designers, or we assume, we create, client is happy, we are happy, but do we ask really if that's what users need and if they perceive it and see it in the same way? And that's the main question we need to ask ourselves every time, for this co-creation is essential. Because if not, I call it drama of my assumption, is going to bring problems in how we are ideating results. Someone who is seeing this, especially designers, are going to say, this is not design, this is architecture, this is urbanism and external infrastructure. So excuse me if I'm offending someone, but what is true that this is very simplified observation, how we design without observing what people need. It happened the same in the city a year ago in Graça area where I was living in Lisbon. When people were still using the same pathway, meantime, someone decided to move the, I don't know in English, sorry, a zebra, like the passage for the passersby. And this is just simple things, but if we go to interfaces, whatever kind of devices, it's the same. It's essential that we listen deeper, and that with what we create, we inspire people for positive change. you need to be aware that as designers, whatever, like I'm saying, it's your background. I'm an anthropologist because I know that probably there are some of you engineers or whatever background you have. It's essential that you understand that you are also change makers. You are going to impact how people are going to behave after the use of what you are creating. So design is a powerful tool and beautiful tool because we are having possibility to give tools to people to create their realities, but what they are going to create depends on what we are delivering. So it's essential that you are testing things that you are creating. Reiteration, as I said, is essential to be with your informants, to really test things, if things are working, to have mock-ups, to come back and forth, and even if it takes time, it's important. I'm going to say, because I'm sure there is already a question about this, oh, what about if I have 1 month project that I need to deliver and I don't have time for all of this? Even if you test in a focus group within a day and you have a closed system, it's going to be beneficial, very beneficial. And especially someone is going to ask, but how do I convince the client because they don't see the benefits? And the thing is, if you fail in the prototyping phase, probably you're going to, if you fail in any phase of research, probably the product is not going to be the most beneficial. But the truth is that testing is essential. If not, your results are very hard to be, your solution is very hard to be achieved. Essential thing for human-centered design, it's highlighting risk, barriers, and perspectives. So it's not only about, I'm going to say this from my experience. So one of the longer projects was a 6 months research on home appliances for a very big company with several, we presented at the end 7, 8, some of them quite radical innovations for product design, but also connected to IoT and smart devices for homes. What I want to say essential in this research was that we set what are the barriers to implement this kind of solutions, but of course also perspectives and opportunities. But when you highlight risks and you provide norms and strategies how to overcome, what kind of partnership to establish, when you have a guideline for your client, when you have a guideline, a roadmap on how to do things, you can prevent many mistakes. Because what happens? You do a great research, you're an amazing researcher, you deliver that to a company, and at the end, someone else is doing your work. And if they don't know exact procedure of how to deliver the work, in case you're not present in that process, it's very hard. It's going to be achieved what you imagined. So solutions for the new world, I'm calling it the new because I really believe we're creating for something new, unexisting or existing in small scale. It's essential we considerate collaboration, co-creation, and in consideration of all living beings. Life and holocentered approach are not something fancy and now it's again new conceptual model because human-centered design is not enough. No, please take me seriously. At least I'm really serious about this. Creating for future, it's all about holistic vision. What is surrounding us? Who is going to be affected by what I am creating? And when you say, but companies are still not ready, in Portugal, companies are backwards, that doesn't matter. Everything is changing and the need for it is ever bigger. And since we have this amazing opportunity to create something different, it's absolute must that we educate our client and that we become advocates for positive change, and especially for life-centered design, where human-centered design is something essential, of course. It's not only about creating sustainability and improvements, it's about understanding what is a holistic systemic solution. It's not about electric cars versus cars on fuel and so on, because why? If the system infrastructure is not supporting it, if the energy doesn't come from the right resource, if the energy is coming from the same wasteful resources, we are not making improvements. This is just one example, but the thing is that systemic vision is essential. So I can speak, if anyone is then interested, I can speak a lot about systems thinking, but essential is when you're creating with transdisciplinary approach. You have different kind of understanding. You are not just reading design or speaking to the same informants, but you have people with different backgrounds. You collaborate and you especially co-create with informants for the future. To stop, I'm almost done actually, and I think it's on time. COVID-19, it's absolutely opportunity for game-changing future, and also opportunity for amazing job and enhancement, and your individual proposals on how you're going to approach to whatever kind of topic you are interested in. But I'm absolutely sure that you should be focusing on your future as systems changers and agents of change, because someone with the knowledge, why I say this, everyone who is researching people, everyone who is observing people, if you're a UX researcher, if you're working with user interface, you need to understand what's happening in society. And you need to understand that you're going to impact each and every individual with your results, because who is going to use your apps or who is going to use your products, it's going to be affected by what you're creating. For this, if you're creating from, I'm jumping because I know we are running out of time. If you're creating from the space of understanding also invisible things like emotions, feelings, belief system, considering environment, planet, all other beings, and especially also creating creative solutions which are enhancing personal creativity and inspiring people, you are going to bring a lot of positive outcomes to your products, to your clients, but also absolutely to the humanity in our future. And I think I'm out of time, but I have, this is one slide I just want to showcase before we close. This is from our project, from my project Give a Shit. We did one public performance on the World Toilet Day. And why I'm showcasing you this, because I want to show you and ask you how we as people are behaving, and how this is perceived even through this kind of artistic installations and observation that I did on this installation. So I would ask anyone in audience if you see any difference on these 4 photos, like it's a very obvious difference. And I don't know, I think you cannot speak, you can just write in chat, but I'm going to answer for you. The photo on left side down below, it's the only one doesn't have a red stripe. Why I'm showing you this? This is, for me, it was a bit even kind of almost freaking me out when I saw this, because after the installation was there for 5 days and people were using this artistic installation in an open space, we wanted that people can interact with the art piece. But what happened that people, after first day, things were broken, some of them stolen, and we understood what we can do. Okay, let's try with the red line in galleries. I was a bit frustrated personally, but what is true, that it was amazing, I can even say human experiment, because after we put the red line around the installation, not even one golden thread was stolen, broken, or touched. And what does this mean? That people, we humans, are very much programmed above what we are delivered. And so it means whatever you're creating behavior. And don't forget this, and this is from Give a Shit project, but whatever project, I assure you, this is visible how you are creating solutions. Absolutely work with your heart. Of course, you're all brainy. I know you're here because you love to know more and you love to learn, and that's essential. And I'm the same, but we are for sure be requested to be in our heart and feel what people need and what our guts are telling us. What is our vision for a better world? And if you are working in your purpose, if you're really in your true desire, what you really like to do, what makes you happy, even if you work for a client, that the project is not the most interesting. If you bring on what makes you happy in that project, what drives you in that project, for sure you're going to deliver more quality for everyone. So this is essential to create well-being of all the existence in the planet. And so I'm finishing. I have some, these are some of the tips. As I said, I'm going to finish with this. Research, it's a mindset. Research is not something human-centered approach. It's not something you use at the beginning of the project and then you have data from users, from informants, and you run away and you have amazing projects. No, research is something, it needs to become a mindset. It's something you need to understand that if you want to see changes in the world, you need to become the change. And I'm going to finish here. And for any further questions, I'm here to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. Thank you, everyone, for paying attention and for being in here. We now have time for a few questions, and we have some very interesting here already on the chat. So I'm going to start with those, and going back, some of them were made during the talk, so going back to a little bit of what you talked in the beginning or in the middle. Someone here is asking, why should we stop calling soft skills soft skills? What's your opinion on this?
Because they are essential skills, okay? We have hard skills and soft skills, or whatever you name it. The thing is, they are essential skills. Without collaboration, without empathizing with our environment, with our individuals, without presencing, without compassion, without really collaborative mindset, we're not going anywhere. And I can be here just one of whoever, and I'm just Laura, and everyone has their own, let's say, position and a way to perform and work. But the thing is, our future is common future. We all inhabit the same planet. We all inhabit the same world. And if we are not changing the mindset that this is not just something soft skills we need to learn, collaboration and empathy, it's essential, it's not going to change. So it's very important we embody soft skills as primary skills in our future. And I'm absolutely sure that social sciences and nature understanding, it's the only way further in any kind of work of UX and human-centered approach. And thank you all for being here. I'm seeing a lot of movement here in the chat. Thank you all for your interaction. It's a shame I cannot hear you or see you, but yeah.
It's different. It's a different kind of engagement, but I'm really, really glad that you're leaving your feedback out, every one of you. So that's a great perspective, and it changes a lot how we say it. It really can help change our mindset. In here I have another question. So more about design process. So during design processes, whichever they are, how do you make sure that the solution is not only tailored to the user, but it's a long-term, holistic and sustainable planet-centered solutions? Here Ellen is asking if you have methodologies like filter and evaluate ideas at hand. Like, what do you use?
I'm sorry, are these questions anywhere I can read them, yeah?
Yeah, in the Ask a Question section.
Okay, so which question is this? I'm sorry, just to...
It's the one on top, so it's about design processes. How you make a solution?
Yes, excuse me, I was just, it's a lot of information. So, yeah, how to do it. The thing is that if you are, I used a lot of focus group, okay? So you have a closed group of informants. What does it mean, closed group? I'm going to give you an example on my toilet research because it's my PhD study. It's also on this topic and I dedicate a lot of time to it. I know it's extensive, but as an example for you to understand. I was running different kind of workshops through 1 year with different kind of stakeholders from municipalities, companies, users. All of us are users of toilets, of course, researchers, different kind of scientists, and so on. What I did, I didn't obligate that they're all the time the same people, okay? It's not if like you are Stefan or you are Janina or Luisa, like I'm seeing here, that you need to be 1 year following me and be in every conversation. No, I choose created a focus group in the way that there was always a representative of one stakeholder group. So there was always someone from municipality, there was always someone from a particular company, there was always someone from a research side. So this is one of the things that you have repetition, but you can still change informants, okay? Because maybe you cannot obligate people that they are with you for a year or for a week, okay? This is one way to go with things. The other thing is co-creative methodology. You, first of all, have insights, you create insights through your research, you draft it down in guidelines, or you create a prototype or wireframe or whatever you're creating. But then be sure you are including your informants. You check with them, you check in, you test it, you get back, you have reiteration. This I said in the talk, but this is very important. And the third thing, what is very important when you say about the planet-centered thing, be in nature. I know it's COVID, I know we are not with people, be in nature. About biomimicry, whatever kind of innovation we have in today's society, aeroplanes, helicopters, diving gear, it was proposed by Leonardo da Vinci, I think 15th, 16th century. Why I'm saying this, I know this is like a very inventor space and original thinking, and invention is very different than innovation, and it come only 500 years later. But with biomimicry, these inventors were observing the nature and observing the behavioral patterns in nature. And observing the nature, planet-centered approach, life-centered approach, it's nothing new. It's just, again, one new fancy term. It's just going back to the roots. I must say like this, just sit in the nature, listen and observe what is needed. And I know it's very bold and it seems like, oh, it's that, but I really do learn a lot with nature. I can write you some books also. They're like my favorite in last year's discovery, and it really changed a lot of things. It didn't change, but it brought a lot of things to the way I work and just complement what I do. It's designed for the pluriverse. It's from Arturo Escobar. Okay, Arturo Escobar. It's a brilliant author, and he also comes from anthropology, but he's designer and he's leading quite big projects on planetary design. So this is one of them. There are a lot of things. Design futuring from Tony Fry, design activism, a lot of books. The books or information, it's not a problem. It's about how you behave with that information and what do you do with that. So be in nature and be with it. And yeah, and thank you for who is already, you're putting things, okay.
I already put here the book suggestion if you want to see on the chat. Thank you very much for this approach. People are giving great feedback about how passionate you talk about what you talk, and that's amazing. So thank you guys for feeling that as well. And moving on, we have a question. Well, we have two questions. Maybe we can look at them more or less at the same time. Here, Ivan is asking, how do you share all these stakeholders who may be looking for quick answers? And here, Stephen was asking, will business not resist a paradigm shift for as long as they have to, answer to shareholders? I think this is the main question. How to deal with shareholders and the monetary value of things, and also giving this perspective. So I think this is the main question being held here, but please leave in the chat if it is something else that you'd like to know.
Okay, absolutely. Very happy to hear also these questions which are pertinent, because the truth is the existing market, existing companies are operating in one particular way. First of all, be knowledgeable about the topic, okay? If you have information, imagine that you are now, because tourism is collapsing and you are working with tourism, you need to have information. What are people doing there in their leisure time? You need to understand how people are enhancing their life, what they are doing to experience different kind of touristic adventurous opportunities. I'm just giving brainstorming as an example. How this translates to the business and business as usual towards something that is called a life-centered approach and business as with green mindset and something that it's really future oriented for our well-being. If you are able to guarantee answers based on your knowledge and research in a credible way, That's the first thing. People are going to believe you. That's the first way. Then they're going to say, but this is more expensive because all this sustainability is good, but this is expensive and we don't want to invest in this. And I already know because I've been in that places. The thing is that you need to find a model, you need to find a framework within your project, whatever team you're working in, where you can showcase that long term, your project is giving long lasting, assuring, not giving, it's going to surely bring long lasting results. Of course, you never have guarantees because you never know what happens with what you create. That can be, again, the question. But with showcasing the data that you can really base yourself on previous evidence, on historical evidence, on collapsing. I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if you know, how many of you know design anthropology approach, but there are very known cases. I don't know, Nokia company, probably all of you already heard of Nokia, even if you're maybe younger generations. What happened, Nokia was one of the most successful companies on, not on smartphones, on cell phones, exactly. What happened that after research of a very known anthropologist, I'm not sure, Anna Kirach, she brought up suggestions towards creating different kind of scheme because she was seeing that phones cannot be so expensive. They need to have more accessible approach, business model for everyone. And they were saying, no, we are focusing on elites. That's not our interest. And that was the inside of field that she was doing a research in India. Why I'm saying you this example, that you can even research online, collapse of Nokia, ethnography research, something like that. What happened that this insight would completely change future of that company. But the company, of course, didn't listen to one researcher because why to listen if we do business as usual and works always. You need to bring the data in the way that people can understand it. And you can also bring collapses from other sides and you say, this is your model, but once you're in position of researcher, you're in position of educator. So it's very important that you're knowledgeable, that you have arguments. If you don't have arguments and factual data, of course it's being difficult, but also, believe it or not, heart-centered approach. If you're there with heart, if you speak the truth, people are going to resonate. They can be stubborn as they want. Each and every company knows that future is about regeneration and sustainability. I'm absolutely sure of that. Now it's just a question of time. So more engaged you are, faster things can happen. I think it was Stephen asking about about how to present it to different kind of shareholders.
Yeah,
I'm going to be very honest. Okay, it's like it's not the easiest to catch up with everything, especially when you have a lot of data and you do ethnography. So I wouldn't say I'm the best of showing this, but I do experience what is the most beautiful way to do this and the most personal approach. So in projects I worked, we used WhatsApp groups. So after the interviews I would do, and after I would be with informants, and I would that was when I was still physically there, I would literally copy some first insights into conversations directly with a client. And I would just give them the feeling, like just the sparkles from the field. And I would say that first stage is going like this, and people are reacting to their product in this way. This is one personalized way. Or WhatsApp or whatever group you create, whatever channel you use. We used also Slack. Slack was not so useful. It was like always easier through some mobile reachable application. The other thing that unfortunately I just saw this week that they are closing it was the Shape. Shape from IDEO. Shape is it was a very nice, I don't know if you know, probably you heard about IDEO. IDEO is one of the leading companies on human-centered approach. We were posting everything inside of Shape and we made our clients collaborators. So it's not a presentation deck, okay? You don't share, absolutely don't share everything, but just some gems, something that can be enhancing and making them understand how valid is your research towards what is coming out. Or also creating the mood boards with the, I don't know, Flickr. I don't personally, what was great, I always did collaborate with other designers or people who would visually introduce the data, but it's essential that you keep engagement because you also gain the trust through the research process. Depends how long is the project and so on and so on.